This episode of the ZuLoo Poodcast is sponsored by ZuLoo Inc., a benefit corporation dedicated to the goal of universal access to toilets, hygiene, clean water and sanitation through the power of social enterprise. Learn more at ZuLoo.com.
Yeah, so her husband had passed away, and she said he had a dream of doing something for water. So I want to donate this $10,000. The foundation didn't do anything on water. I came in and that surfaced. And I said, I know some guys that can put this to good use.
Welcome to the ZuLoo Poodcast, where we talk all things poop, toilets, and sanitation. Through insightful news, impact stories, and quirky humor, we aim to discuss and highlight the critical role toilets play in whisking poop out of our lives, the impact toilets have, or lack thereof, in the health and wellness of humanity, and what ZuLoo is doing to help solve the current global sanitation crisis.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the ZuLoo Puddcast. We are so excited to have you listening in, excited for another great week of awesome poo talk, toilet talk.
Poo talk, toilet talk, we're doing all of it.
We do it all. And we're especially excited because we finally flagged down our friend Arturo Fuentes. Welcome to the ZuLoo Puddcast. Excited to have you on the show, coming and chatting with us.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yay.
Hopefully you don't regret it.
I hope not.
You've been very evasive. I'm just going to call you out right now. How many emails did you send him? Like 20, 30?
We've sent a lot over the last year or so.
Sending gifts and fruit baskets and...
Why am I not friendly enough?
Yeah, I was just waiting for a friendlier tone, maybe, to finally say yes.
I guess the angry gift didn't work for you. The scolding.
I told Kelsey to be nice, be tactful, but she's a little overbearing sometimes. But.
Yeah, it's hard when that little devil on my shoulder comes out. So.
Yeah.
But welcome, Arturo. I would love it if you could tell our audience a little bit about yourself, what you do, and maybe what your connection is with ZuLoo. How did you get in contact with us?
Yeah. So what do I do? So I've been in social development my whole career. Started actually my undergrad studies. Started in microfinance, but have done everything from agriculture to water, sanitation, special education, a lot of different aspects of just social, cultural development.
Yeah.
In the last several years, it's been more of an emphasis on child sexual and labor exploitation.
Yeah.
And gender-based violence. But I know ZuLoo from the first time I met them was in Darren's office. He promised to take me on his boat. I'm still waiting on that, which is why I kept saying no to this podcast until I'm on a boat somewhere.
Oh, it's my fault now.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry.
But
what are you doing this weekend? We can go. We can go.
All right, let's go this weekend. Puerto Rico. So we met because I was working with an organization and we were doing some sanitation projects in India. And we tried it in a couple other places, Belize and Peru. And my colleague, Melissa Seavey, had told me that there was this social enterprise that was kind of innovative. They're trying to reimagine the bathroom experience. And she said, as part of their social impact strategies, their CSR initiative, they wanted to give back to sanitation initiatives. So we met with them and started to explore potential collaborations. We had seen a lot of need in this space, particularly in India, which I'm sure you've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think beyond the obvious synergy programmatic wise, there was definitely a frequency match where we just kind of vibed well together.
Yeah.
At least I think so. I don't know if he did, but yeah. And since then,
no, we were talking the same language, and I could tell we could have a lot of fun doing this.
Yeah, and we did, and we have,
and we continue to do,
and we still do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's evolved, and super excited to have you here, Arturo. We're going to get into maybe talk about some of our escapades across the globe.
I'll be excited to hear some of those firsthand. Feel like I've just heard whispers of the infamous Arturo, over the last year. Arturo. And now, like, you're here in the flesh. So,
Yeah,
yes,
get
we'll
ready to be
excited do
disappointed. Here I
am. Not at all. It's been a delight so far. We had a great dinner. So, but we are anxious to hear this week's Poo News, which is something that we do on the podcast every week. So we'll go to Darren for that.
Yes, Poo News is, and I'm wearing my Puerto Rico shirt.
You got to turn, show your flag.
Yeah, I've got Puerto Rico, wearing it on my sleeve today for my fellow brothers and sisters, hermanas y hermanos in Puerto Rico. It's a rough few past 3 or 4 days. I mean, this will hopefully everything will be back to normal by the time this airs. I mean, this might air several weeks later, but Hurricane Fiona just really did a number on the island a few days ago, and continue. I think there's and we'll put up this article. Half of the. And sorry to lead out with a little bit of a.
Oh, are we about to get bummed?
A sad story.
Okay.
I usually try to find a funny poo story, but this one's a serious one. Still, half of the island, 1.1. Well, the whole island has 3.3 million residents, of which I'm one. I happened to just dodge the bullet, and I was off the island when I'm
literally by like
here
hours.
in Utah. Yeah, I flew out Wednesday night, and the hurricane landed Sunday night. So anyway, so I've been texting friends and down there, and they're like, "Oh, still no water, still no power." I mean, electricity is one thing, right? But the water is a whole nother thing, right? Back in February, and Trevor, you were there, right? Trevor flies down to visit, and then it just so happens they were doing maintenance on the water main, and they put up this letter. Oh, only about 6 hours. This water is going to be out. It turned out to be like 2 days of no water. And that was, we're having to get buckets out of the pool just to flush the toilet, and no drinking. Well, we had, luckily we had a bunch of drinking water. I stopped using my drinking water to flush the toilet. My wife was like, "Stop using that water." I'm like, "Well, it's going to be on in a few hours," and then turned into day 2, and you're like, "Oh crap, I'm out of." Anyway, but our hearts go out to Puerto Rico tonight. And hopefully power and water gets restored soon. And, and, you saw the effects when we were in Puerto Rico. We went there, during the pandemic, right? That's the only place we could go during the pandemic. And Arturo, Chris and I went down to Puerto Rico, and we were working on projects from the last hurricane. Do you have any thoughts about that trip or memories? Or did you try to block it out?
Arturo's like, of all the places I've been in the world, you're asking me about Puerto Rico for a quick stint 3 years ago.
No, I think it's, if one thing comes to mind is poverty or inequality has so much to do with the lottery of birth, and especially, sometimes we like to blame it on a lack of education, lack of economic opportunities. But sometimes geography has a huge role in it. These landlocked countries in Africa, that tend to have more disease play a part, and in a place where there's higher risk for things like tsunamis, hurricanes, that can definitely compound problems of helping people escape these generational poverty traps. And so, just like there's no blanket solution. We just do all the things and hope that things stick. Yeah.
My brain is thinking just about Pakistan's flooding a few weeks ago, and I don't really tune into the news that often, so I'm not updated on how that is. But just seeing videos and photos of that, I mean, it was just sort of like oh my gosh, like these extreme weather situations, right? And what it puts people and communities through, because, okay, so you're like in a drought one day, and then all of a sudden your house is being swept away in this massive flood the next. Can you even catch a break? Do you even have time to think about things like equality? I mean, I'm sure that that goes through somebody's mind in the back, like, gee, this is really unfair. But how much time are, they spending thinking about, okay, how can I get ahead in this next bit when so much of their time is really just spent in survival mode? And I think it's an interesting thing to look at when we're looking at natural disasters like that, is that it does push a community back so far. And sometimes some communities are so helpless at rebuilding and reestablishing. And so it behooves great organizations like ZuLoo to help out where we can, to say, bring some awareness to that inequality and say, okay, let's not only get you back on your feet, but let's look forward to the future and how we can be more equal, right? In other ways too. Anyway, that was a very tangential thought. But.
No, it's really relevant because, we like the project we did, Cesar, and rebuilding that toilet from Hurricane Maria. And that's really what the news is about. It's like, it's been 5 years since Hurricane Maria. Now Hurricane Fiona comes through and not a lot has changed,
Yeah.
The power grid's still bad. Sanitation still, the water system is a little bit fragile as well. But I'm just hoping that Cesar's, little bungalow, one-room house is still on, it didn't slide down the mountain. I mean, it could.
It could have, yeah.
It's a real thing. But anyway, hopefully things will get back to normal soon. So we'll report on that later. But on the other side of the planet, there's some other news out of China. This Chinese company, technology company in Fujian province, is catching a lot of heat because they installed surveillance cameras in their toilets, in their bathrooms, because a lot of their employees, I guess they were working 18-hour days and they were spending a lot of time going to the bathroom and just hanging out in there. And
oh no, it sounds like me as a teenager.
They're doing social media and they're smoking, and apparently the photos from the footage made its way onto Chinese social media, where it went viral, and now, this is a China Aviation Lithium Battery Technology Company. It's owned by the Chinese Communist Party, and they were saying they were just trying to monitor their, making sure their employees only took so many bathroom breaks during the day, and that's why they installed the camera. But you think, even in a society like China, it's like, hey, there is a right to privacy. Everybody was like, you're treating us like animals, and and now the government's investigating, and okay, maybe this is a little too far, right? But anyway,
I have lots of thoughts. It looks like Arturo might too. What's in your brain?
I guess where my mind is going is just the importance of looking at supply chains in our day-to-day living, because who would ever want to buy a product from this company who treated employees this way? And anyway, that's initially where my mind was going. We're so far removed from the origins of the things we buy and consume, and it's unfortunate because in so many places we have these atrocious working conditions that deprive people of dignity. And
so not only did they install the cameras, but they also, if you spent too much time in the toilet, your salary got cut.
Oh my gosh!
So they were keeping track of how many times you go. They issued fines for workers that used the toilet more than once a day.
What?
And they installed timers on the toilet themselves, like a timer, like, bing, you're done, your time to go back to the.
That was way more extreme than I thought that was going to be.
Anyway, so those are just, So anyway, what were your thoughts? It would be maybe a difficult company to work for.
To put it simply. I think my thoughts are just how unethical it is. I think Arturo said it much more eloquently than I ever could. Yeah, to look into, okay, where are you actually purchasing products from? What are you actually contributing to? It's all too easy to not think about those things and to just say, I don't know, I need toilet paper, whatever. I don't know, I need some batteries. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care if I Amazon them. I don't care where they come from. I don't care who's making them. I got bigger problems. And like, we do all have problems. However, we are all connected. And so,
so if your product, you open it up and it says that your battery is made by China Aviation Lithium Battery Technology Company, then maybe you ought to think about not buying that battery.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I work for Young Living right now, and we have embarked into an exciting 3-year process of diving into our supply chains to make sure, as our philanthropy deals quite a bit with trafficking and rescue and rehabilitation and prevention of human exploitation, making sure in our own backyard, us being an essential oils company, to make sure agriculture is rampant with unethical labor. So we've had to take a deep look at China, especially the places with high Uyghur populations, and having to make those tough decisions that I hope end up being in our best interests, of course, and cutting ties with some of these locations, specifically in China, where we don't want our products to be tainted by that type of work environments.
Okay. Yeah, maybe you can tell us a little bit about Young Living, what you're currently doing there. Maybe a lot of our listeners aren't familiar with Young Living. Maybe go into that a little bit.
Yeah, so Young Living it's an essential oils company. And I work for their foundation. So I'm the director of Global Philanthropy. And one of the coolest projects was undergoing this 3-year process that got approved last year. So we're at the end of our first year. And it's nice to see the company making adjustments to better safeguard our, not just reputational risk, but just also because it's the right thing to do. And so right now I am over our programs and partners worldwide. I got recruited initially to handle just our exploitation area. So we have three primary areas. One is education, one is ending exploitation. The third is developing enterprise opportunities for low-income women's groups. And but since then, I've just taken more of a overall role in overseeing all of the company's foundations, philanthropy.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah, and ZuLoo's had a relationship with Young Living even before you were there. We were working with, Jackie was working there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you connected us to Jackie somehow behind the scenes, or, you were with, seems like you guys have switched roles, because you were with Give Consulting and then, and now, we talked to Jackie, and she's like running Give Consulting now too. So
we pulled a Freaky Friday. So basically, yes.
Yeah. So we in fact, Young Living was one of our first, one of our earliest donors, drilling water wells in India, and we're super grateful for them for stepping up, because we hadn't done it yet. We had talked about it, and we're like, hey, we're going to do this, and but Young Living helped it happen, and so along with a few other private foundations, made it, got us to India, got us drilling the wells over there, and most recently, again, speaking of poo news, I mean, maybe ZuLoo has our own news. We just because of the generosity of Young Living, we've started drilling some additional water wells this quarter,
awesome,
as we speak. Some more water wells, and also toilets as well. A number of toilets in some of those same areas that we went in 2019. And so that's in the news.
That's in our
we're making
ZuLoo
news here, but yeah, we're grateful for Young Living for helping us with that and helping. And then, yeah, so that's, and also, we were able to partner with SAPIT over there with some flood relief recently as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we're, when you talk about, what does flood relief have to do with toilets? Well, look at Puerto Rico, right?
Yeah.
Massive floods, and guess what happens to I guess if you have a wastewater treatment plant and it goes underwater, it doesn't work,
Yeah. I don't know if you know the story of that initial $10,000 grant that we gave, because technically Young Living wouldn't grant to water and sanitation projects.
Okay.
We had one of the distributors donate $10,000 like the year previous. Her husband,
I knew you said it wasn't like a part of the overall program. It was a little bit of a one-off.
Yeah.
Seems like that's what I remember.
Yeah. So her husband had passed away, and she said he had a dream of doing something for water. So I want to donate this $10,000. The foundation didn't do anything on water. I came in and that surfaced, and I said, I know some guys that can put this to good use. And I remember, communities who receive borewells often like to have a plaque with, honoring the donor.
Yeah.
And I remember asking her, hey, what name can I put on this plaque? Because we did some other ones there. And she said, I don't want a name. I just wanted to say peace, so that everyone who drinks from that water is blessed with peace. And it was a nice thing for her to finally get some closure, because that funding was sitting there, I want to say, for like 2 years.
Wow.
Until we were finally able to tell her, hey, this has been used. And now there's some communities in India that have access to water.
And have lifelong peace.
And have a lot of peace of mind that you don't often think about when you think about water security and access. Peace of mind.
Yes.
For parents and kids.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when we went over there, they said, hey, we're going to be doing a ceremony. And I thought, oh, they're just going to flip the switch and yell hooray. But it was a big deal. The entire community turned out. Everybody was dressed up, flowers, incense, coconuts. I mean, just made it a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost like a religious experience,
Yeah.
And then, blessing the well. I don't know if there was a priest there, but it was that sort of environment, and then afterward getting together and everybody talking about, not just the water, but the toilets as well. I mean, yeah, it's, I remember sitting there with Chris, and Chris leaned over to me and he said, oh, now I know why we're doing this. Now I get it. But, no, that's a cool story. Yeah. That was, I think you just called, I was actually in Puerto Rico, and you just called me out of the blue and said, hey, can I get your wiring instructions? And I'm like, wiring instructions? Yeah. He's like, yeah, we're
blew the dust off of the...
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, well, I can go find some wiring instructions. I don't know if they're the right ones, but but yeah, because I think you said, hey, I think we have some funding for the water project. So it's
well,
cool.
Arturo, I'm curious to know, in the work that you do with helping both survivors of exploitation and women and children and men too, who are currently experiencing communities where there is high levels of exploitation, what are some of the things that are key to eradicating that within a community?
When I think of the biggest contributors to trafficking, which includes unsafe migration, I think of poverty and desperation. It's ultimately people who end up exploited and trafficked, both labor or commercial sex, are experiencing those two things. And it's the situation where they are out of options.
Yeah.
And so they compromise decisions. They say yes to things they wouldn't otherwise, if they weren't dealing with either hunger or, children needing to be fed, a family needing to support a family, etc.
Yeah. And so it brings into this thread of economic equality, right? And economic progress, helping families and individuals find ways to be self-sufficient and to provide for themselves. Where is Young Living's, or I guess your role in helping individuals and families to achieve economic stability or self-sufficiency?
Great question. So I just got back from Uganda a few weeks ago, and I was visiting. We have a collection of shelters for kids who've been rescued from trafficking, and we work with a partnership on this. One of our main ones. They focus on prevention, rescue, rehabilitation, and reform and justice reform. And so there's the rescue part of taking the child outside of the situations that they're in, right, which sometimes we might think that's the hardest part. It's actually not. It is such a small step in the rescue process.
Yeah.
But it's what leads up to that and what follows it. And also on the prevention side, it's important. So for example, we have all these kids that are there for various reasons, and they start their journey of healing with psychological support. They get medical examinations. We do take pains to make sure that their perpetrators are brought to justice. So there's also that psychosocial counseling, because the child does have to testify in court. And then there's a team that just starts focusing on figuring out where did this child come from. And it's not easy in these rural locations that sometimes they come from the most remote villages without street addresses or numbers or phone numbers. But as they take on the task of figuring out where they're from, they'll finally locate the family or the house. And then they start investigating what were those conditions that led to their trafficking. Were the parents complicit? Were they completely ignorant? Because in these remote locations, it's easy for somebody to come in and say, "Hey, I can offer your child good education."
Yeah.
A mother might think this is our only ticket out for this family out of our poverty. In a lot of cases, it's a relative. And before they know it, they haven't heard from their child in months, and it's this awful feeling. And I've been on these trips where we bring a child back to their families, and the emotion of the mother running to the child who they assumed was dead or lost or something. Wow. But in those situations, 100%, it's a lack of financial opportunity. So part of our prevention work is in areas that are more prone for exploitation because they're of the high risk of poverty. We do savings and loans cooperatives to make women especially more economically independent and resilient, keep kids in school. And it was funny, I met with a group of them recently, and it all sounds too good to be true. Like, do these savings and loans groups really work?
Yeah.
And it's crazy because they do. And I'm the biggest skeptic when it comes to social development. I rarely believe somebody's success stories. But yeah, they sat there talking about how just being able to have enough money to buy salt has prevented domestic violence. It's prevented child abuse.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, it's a very effective way of preventing exploitation.
Yeah. Something so far, I think, beyond the minds of a lot of us that are privileged here in the States, not even really thinking about things like that, right? Yeah. It's just, sometimes it's close to home here. And sometimes it just feels like, wow, that's a reality. I can't even imagine that something, a small loan of, I used to work for a public relations firm, and we would give out just very like micro loans to women through a program called Kiba. And they were like anywhere from $150 to $500 or whatever. But to have these women write back through, they were anonymous. We weren't connected directly, but like through the organization, to have them report back like, yeah, this $500 that I was given, like, gave my crop enough yield for me to feed my family for a year, or even like helped their whole village. I mean, it's just incredible to see that domino effect of how quickly progress can happen in both directions, right? Like how much can be prevented and how much progress can be made. Yeah, I think my thoughts are a little scrambled there, but I hope that that's making sense and coming out correctly.
No, I think you're right. I mean, as far as like the impact that just a small, like you were talking about salt, like what impact does that have on, domestic abuse? And we were talking several podcasts ago with Rudy, our writer, or one of our writers in London, and she's worked in the same field as far as preventing child exploitation. And, she talked about how a toilet just, these communal toilets that you see in the slums over there is, it exposes those children to potential voyeurs and potential kidnapping and potential exposure and things like that. Whereas a private toilet in their own home, takes all that out of the equation, and just the impact the toilet had. I'm curious, Arturo, what do you, we went to India, Hyderabad together back in 2019, which seems like an eternity ago. What was that? What was that like for you as far as I know you were involved in a lot of other aspects like the Women's Center and the seed program, but as far as the toilets go, because this is the Poodcast, we're talking about toilets, we are kind of a one-track mind here, but what have you seen, and it doesn't have to be India, but Uganda, I know you've been around the world, but what have you seen as far as toilets, the impact in some of your work?
Yeah, a few things tug at my heart more than the sanitation crisis, which is why I've always loved ZuLoo. Yeah, let's see, where do I start? But just we did this together, but even before then, meeting with different slums where up to 90% of the people didn't have access to a toilet, and sometimes we don't think what life would be like without a toilet. I was just in Uganda and I took my niece, and she would ask, why is there garbage everywhere in these remote villages? She's like, why don't they just put up a trash can? And then I said, well, who's going to empty the trash? She said, a garbage truck. It's like, what if there's no garbage truck? Same with human waste.
Yeah.
We have the privilege here where we can throw a piece of trash in the waste basket and we don't have to think about it. We can flush a toilet. We don't have to think about it. And that's not the case. But getting into what life is like for, say, a girl in her early teens, not having a toilet and sitting and through these really excruciating stories of feeling fear on a daily basis. I remember working with a university department because I wanted to see if we could measure pre-post what life is like before having a toilet for these kids and women, and post. And so asking questions like, on an average day, how scared do you feel of snakes? How scared do you feel of, all these, to see, because that's something we don't often talk about. What does it do to a girl if she experiences fear every day when nature calls? What does it do to a girl who purposely doesn't eat and doesn't drink water to avoid the catcalls, to avoid boys following her, to avoid boys taking pictures of them in the fields? What does it do psychologically to that girl? I would assume she's less likely to finish high school. She's less likely to go to college. What does it do to even the national security of a company to have less women graduate from university, all because they're scared? And it's excruciating for me. And it wasn't uncommon for up to, I wouldn't say 100% in most cases, of the females to have experienced some sort of sexual harassment or sexual violence. We were in a group where a woman fought back tears because her daughter had been raped while having to go to the bathroom. Years prior, a child went missing, which we never found out what happened to that child, but they were going to get water. And So yeah, passionate about people feeling safe, and I think there. I can think of two. I'm sure there's more consequences of not having access to a toilet. One is the increase in sexual violence. The second one is obviously health.
Yeah.
And the diseases that I think now they correlate to why half of India's children are stunted, and it's because of proximity to human feces and worms that are ingested.
Wow.
And if a child is stunted, both physically and cognitively, then that's just one child it's going to be so much harder for them to make it into college and succeed and thrive. And so what is the biggest tragedy of poverty is it's that waste of talent that we don't know what could have happened with these kids if this girl felt safe in her childhood. If this child wasn't stunted, what could they have become?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we of course on the podcast, the Poodcast, we try to share some of those stories, and that's what it's all about, right?
That's what it's all about. It's making sure that potential can be fulfilled, because it's a tragedy. And I think even, maybe a conversation for another time though, is talking about on a government level, if you're working for your government and you hear that statistic, you're thinking, oh boy, that's the future of my country.
Yeah.
How do I invest in the future of my country better so that my citizens are happy, healthy, thriving, and therefore my country is happy, healthy, thriving? So
yeah,
lots of food for thought.
Absolutely.
Well, Arturo, thank you so much for joining us on the ZuLoo Puodcast. It's been an absolute delight. I know that you've got a busy schedule, so thanks for all the amazing work that you do around the world too.
I just get anxiety when I communicate with people.
Me too. It's funny that I co-host podcasts. But thank you genuinely for the work that you do around the world for Young Living, and also all the work that you've done to help ZuLoo.
Thank you guys.
Achieve its
and
goals.
we'd hope you would send us off with some sort of mariachi band song in Spanish.
Do you sing mariachi?
I don't.
Oh.
I wish I did. I play in a mariachi band, but I don't sing.
Oh, we should have had you bring your guitar.
And I would have totally done that.
Oh, okay. Maybe we'll have to have you on next time.
Yeah, next
Bring
time.
the guitar.
Bring the whole band. I love mariachi. Thanks everybody for joining in. We'll catch you next week.
Thank you for listening to the ZuLoo Poodcast. Follow us on social media at our links in the show notes below. To learn more, visit our website, ZuLoo.org. If you liked the podcast, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. For even more ZuLoo fun, send us an email with your toilet stories to podcast@ZuLoo.com for a chance to be featured on the podcast. This episode of the ZuLoo Poodcast is sponsored by ZuLoo Inc., a benefit corporation dedicated to the goal of universal access to toilets, hygiene, clean water and sanitation through the power of social enterprise. Learn more at ZuLoo.com.